revealed. The touching moment a waitress transformed a billionaire's night with a surprising dance. Claire stood at the edge of the bustling dining room, the gleam of chandeliers and laughter of patrons swirling around her like an uninvited fog. Bills were piling up at home, and her mind raced with worries. Could she save enough for her daughter's school supplies this month? Each shift at the high-end restaurant felt more draining than the last, yet she wore a smile that never reached her eyes. The anonymity of her patrons brought her face to face with her own dull reality, serving lavish meals to those who barely noticed her beyond their table talk. And yet, somewhere deep inside, her heart yearned for something more, something she couldn't even name anymore. The night took a sharp turn when the name Robert Ashford reverberated through the restaurant, echoed by gasps and whispers. As the towering billionaire entered, a thick atmosphere of both awe and disdain cloaked him. Claire had heard of his ruthless tactics, his cold demeanor, yet an unusual sense of kinship struck her. Was it their shared solitude? The heavy weight of expectations? Dark shadows danced beneath the billionaire's composed surface. One she could tell was marred by loneliness, the same kind she faced as a single mother. Just then, a sudden kitchen mishap erupted. Plates clattered and Claire's focus wavered, the stress knotting her gut. She took a deep breath, but the chaos threatened to wash over her. Everyone moved in a flurry, but Claire felt herself slipping into a moment of vulnerability. A wild idea sparked in her mind. Perhaps it was time to reclaim the joy of living, even if just for a fleeting second. She approached Robert, her heart pounding in her ears. The glimmer of fear in his eyes mirrored her own fear of letting go. "Let us dance," she offered, half joking, half desperate. Before she knew it, they slipped into the empty dining room after hours, her surprise invitation still hanging heavily in the air. With dimmed lights and soft tunes filling the silence, they began to move. She felt alive, her body swaying like it hadn't in years. As she danced, a restrained part of Robert slowly unfurled beside her. No longer a billionaire in a suit, he transformed into something profoundly human, embracing a moment detached from the world's harsh realities. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With every subtle movement, Claire felt the weight of her own dreams shift just a little. Could she be more than a waitress? In those precious moments, both were laid bare, reveling in the vulnerability they'd both tucked away for so long. But as laughter faded, the door swung open. A shadow stepped into the room, an unmistakable face from Claire's past. The emotional disruption gnawed at her, yanking her back to the obligations she couldn't escape. The stakes tightened. Every breath hummed with the unknown. Could this moment, fragile and ethereal, withstand the storm on the other side? Claire stood there, heart racing, gripped by a conflict so visceral, it threatened to unravel everything she'd built. Would she choose the dance of life, or retreat into the safety of her harsh reality? The air crackled with tension, two worlds colliding in a stirring crescendo, as she hung on the edge of a decision that would change everything. Claire's heart pounded, each thud echoing the weight of her past. The face now framed in the doorway was that of Derek, her ex-partner, and his presence felt like a lightning bolt splitting the night sky. Memories cascaded through her mind, arguments over money, dreams abandoned, the weight of expectations suffocating their aspirations. She had resisted the gravity of their relationship for years, but now, with Robert by her side, the blend of vulnerability and liberation felt precarious. Derek's gaze swept across the room, landing first on her, then on Robert, and a storm brewed behind his narrowed eyes. "What are you doing here, Claire?" he demanded, his voice low and churning like an unsettled sea. The question pierced the fragile atmosphere, and Claire could feel the moment shatter. Instinctively, she glanced at Robert, whose expression had shifted from warmth to a guarded mask. In that fleeting exchange, she realized she wasn't just battling her past. She was also grappling with the potential of her future. "Just having a little fun," Claire replied, attempting to maintain her composure. But she felt the energy draining from the room, and she fought against an urge to retreat. It would be all too easy to slip back into familiar patterns, fearfully accommodating every demand, living her life in the shadow of another's ambitions. Derek stepped forward, challenging her with every step. Fun? You think sneaking around with a billionaire is fun? What about our daughter? Are you really going to show her this kind of reckless behavior? That mention of her daughter ignited an inner fire. Claire's protective instincts surged, battling against the intrusion of doubt. Did Derek hold the power to dictate her happiness? No, she thought fiercely. She had sacrificed too much, watched too many dreams dim under the weight of obligation. It was time to reclaim not just the dance she shared with Robert, but the very essence of who she was. Fun is exactly what I need right now, Derek, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. This isn't about you or us anymore. It's about living. Something I hadn't realized I was allowed to do until tonight. Robert shifted slightly, the tension palpable between the three of them. Claire met his gaze, searching for some semblance of support. Beneath the polished surface, was he the ally she hoped for? Or would he retreat back into his world, leaving her to fend for herself against Derek's looming presence? Perhaps, Robert interjected, his tone measured yet firm. This isn't an appropriate time to discuss personal matters. We're just enjoying a moment of respite. Claire caught the fleeting look of surprise on Derek's face, as if Robert's class and authority were unfamiliar to him, a jarring contrast to the vulnerability in which they had just danced. For the first time she felt a spark of solidarity with Robert, not as a billionaire but as a man who understood the complex nature of human connection. Derek's expression hardened, and the air thickened with impending conflict. So you chose him, huh? A wealthy distraction? Telling yourself that this makes you feel alive? Claire swallowed hard. Each word felt like a stone thrown in the water, sending ripples of insecurity throughout her being. But she was tired of being someone's reflection or a half-lit version of herself. As anger and resolve swirled inside her, a new sensation began to surface: clarity. She had spent years minimizing her dreams for the sake of others. But was it too late to redefine her narrative? With a steely resolve, Claire took a step toward Derek, her voice barely above a whisper yet carrying the weight of her conviction. No, it's not just a distraction. It's the first spark of hope I've felt in a long time. And for the first time I'm ready to chase it. As she spoke, the door swung shut behind Derek, leaving a chilling silence. The air crackled with possibilities. She had made a choice to embrace her desires despite the noise of judgment. Claire glanced back at Robert, whose eyes held a flicker of admiration and intrigue. In that moment, path unfurled before her. She felt the heaviness of her restraints begin to ease. The dance was more than a momentary escape. It had unlocked a reservoir of potential she had long thought dried up. But as the tension in the room began to settle, a new uncertainty loomed. Would she dare to pursue this ambitious new beginning, even if it meant facing judgment and losing her old life? And in that hesitation, she caught a glimpse of the next step turning in her mind, igniting a desire she had thought forgotten. What lay ahead was a confrontation not only with her ex but also with an internal struggle that had followed her for far too long. Would she dare to pursue the difficulties of change, or would she again allow fear to anchor her down? The answer flickered before her like the dim lights of the dance floor, waiting to be embraced or extinguished. The silence that enveloped the room felt heavy, pressing against Claire's chest. The pulse of uncertainty lingered alongside her newfound determination, each breath a reminder of the choice she had made. She turned to Robert, the remnants of Derek's accusations still echoing in her mind, and felt the stakes crystallize in her consciousness. This wasn't just a fleeting moment of rebellion, it was the potential edge of a different life. Are you okay? Robert's voice was soft yet tinged with concern, cutting through the fog of tension. Claire nodded, though inside she could feel herself quaking. All her previous choices flickered before her, decisions driven by obligation rather than desire. What if she proceeded down this avenue, only to find herself lost yet again? I need to go for a walk, she said abruptly, a plan forming as the words left her lips. She could no longer sit idly by, suffocating in someone else's expectations. Would you join me? Of course, he replied, the warmth in his gaze igniting a spark of courage. Outside, the air was cool, a crisp contrast to the charged atmosphere they had just left behind. As they walked along the cobblestone path, illuminated by the soft glow of streetlights, Claire felt the weight of her regrets begin to lift. With every step away from that confrontation, she inched closer to understanding who she was and what she wanted. "What Derek said," Robert began cautiously, glancing sideways at her. "Are you worried about what he thinks?" Claire interrupted, dragging herself out of her spiraling thoughts. "I've worried about that my entire life. It's exhausting. It's hard to break away from the opinions of others," he admitted. "I faced similar conflicts in my business." She turned to him, curious. "Really? In what way?" Robert took a deep breath, as if weighing his next words. "There are always people telling me how to manage my company, how I should be operating. It's tiring to fight against that pressure. Sometimes I think it's easier to conform rather than risk failure." His honesty struck a chord. She realized that his world was not so detached from her own inner battles. Both of them were navigating the precarious territory of expectation, his from boardrooms, hers from the confines of motherhood and past relationships. "What if we both made a different choice?" Claire suggested impulsively. "What if we decided to pursue what makes us truly happy, regardless of what others think?" Robert paused, his eyes locking onto hers. It was a brief moment of alignment, a shared understanding of the turmoil that lay beneath their confident facades. "Then we would have to confront the fear of failure together," he replied, a hint of enthusiasm in his expression. "Together," she echoed, the word hanging in the air like a promise. Suddenly, Claire felt a rush of possibility, a new determination coursing through her veins. This moment was pivotal, an opportunity to challenge not only her past but the boundaries of her future. "What do you think you would do?" she asked, sensing the winds of change beginning to shift. "I want to reinvent how my company operates," he said, confidence beginning to bloom. "More creativity, less conformity. I'm tired of trying to fit myself into a mold." His conviction stirred something deep within Claire. She envisioned the audacity of starting a new chapter, one where she could redefine herself beyond the narrative Derek had forced upon her. Her life wasn't just what others expected. It was what she decided to carve into existence. "What if we supported each other?" she proposed, her heart racing at the invitation she was extending. "Not just in the grand aspects of our lives but in the smaller moments too." Robert turned serious, evaluating her proposal. "A partnership? Yes, but not like any partnership we've experienced. A true alliance built on honesty and support." There was a tension in the air, the heaviness of fear mixed with tantalizing opportunity. He nodded slowly, and Claire could see him processing the weight of their mutual decision. This could be the beginning of an uncharted journey, not just toward personal growth, but toward a connectedness bred from shared ambition. As they meandered down the street, the silence between them thickened with unspoken plans and dreams, visions of what could be beginning to take shape. Would they take the leap? Would they allow each other to transform their insecurities into emerging power? And with that thought lingering, Claire felt the flicker of resolve solidify into a flame. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was theirs to navigate. The moment to act was approaching. They would have to face whatever challenges lay ahead together. What awaited them was a new reality, one that required courage to pursue, a chance to redefine not just what they desired, but who they could become. Only time would tell if they were ready to meet that challenge head-on. With each step they took, the cool night air invigorated Claire's senses. The streetlights framed her thoughts in clarity, illuminating possibilities she had previously shied away from. Their shared ambition, still fresh and unrefined, wrapped around her like a promise, urging her to think differently. "I've never really thought about what would make me happy," Claire admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. The confession hung between them, filled with the weight of past choices and future aspirations. She could feel Robert's gaze, steady and encouraging, urging her to keep revealing the layers she had built around herself. "What if we both took stock of what happiness means to us?" Robert suggested. "Make a list. Dream without limits." The idea struck her as both liberating and terrifying. Writing down her desires would mean confronting the very truth she had tucked away. The passion she had once felt for painting, the dream of traveling the world, and the aching wish to own a small cafe where she could express herself. The thought sent a rush of anxiety coursing through her, but mingled with it was an exhilarating sense of curiosity and hope. "Let us do it," she responded, a spark of excitement igniting in her chest. "This will be the start of our new lives." They wandered further, finding themselves in a little park with benches surrounded by cherry blossom trees, their petals whirling in the soft breeze. As they sat together, the atmosphere shifted under the expanse of the night sky. They were free to share not just dreams but fears. "What's your biggest fear about this shift?" Robert asked, his tone gentle but probing. Claire hesitated, the weight of his question pressing down on her. "What if I fail? What if I'm as lost as I've always felt, trying to navigate a world where I don't quite fit?" His face mirrored her concern, understanding etched into every line. "I think that fear is universal, Claire. Even in the business world, there's no guarantee. You just have to be willing to confront it, even if it means stumbling along the way." His honesty was refreshing, and Claire felt the gravity of his words settle deep within her. "And what about you? What terrifies you in this new venture?" "I fear losing my identity in the process," he confided, his eyes searching the glimmering stars. "I've managed to build a successful company, but it's felt more like chains than freedom. What if breaking away means abandoning my purpose entirely?" Claire could see the struggle etched in his demeanor, the burden he carried even in success. Their vulnerabilities intertwined, exposing the layers of existence that so many kept hidden. In that exchange, she felt a connection deepen, tethering her spirit to his. "What if we don't have to do it alone?" she suggested. "What if partnering is not just about support but about bringing our strengths together?" He turned, his expression a mix of realization and curiosity. "What do you mean?" "Maybe we should create something together, a project that reflects who we are and what we wish to achieve, blending your creativity with my passion." The vision sprang forth like a dormant seed finally catching sunlight, allowing Claire to smile as she imagined it. A creative workspace that fostered innovation and expression. They would cultivate originality, a shared dream that freed them from steel confines of traditional expectations. His eyes sparkled at the thought. "Conceiving a flagship of our aspirations, now that sounds exhilarating." Caught in the thrill of shared vision, Claire felt a surge of empowerment. The air around them no longer whispered of doubt, it sang of possibilities. Yet an undercurrent of unease flickered at the back of her mind. The realization that dreams could morph into reality brought as much apprehension as excitement. "What's our first step?" she asked, the question outpacing her heartbeat. Robert grinned, the anticipation palpable in the air. "We start by identifying what that space looks like. We dig into what resonates with us: art, food, community. Let us do research, brainstorm ideas, feel it out." They stood up, the path ahead stretching in infinite directions. However, despite the burgeoning enthusiasm, Claire sensed an approaching storm. If they pursued this audacious leap, there were many uncertainties to confront, including potential pushback from their personal lives. And just as that thought clouded her burgeoning excitement, they caught sight of Derek in the distance, his presence looming like a storm cloud over their joyful prospects. She felt her heart somersault at the sight. Would he challenge their ambitions, hold them back in the way he had before? Claire tightened her grip on Robert's arm, drawing strength from their shared dream while a rush of defiance surged through her veins. They had ignited a new path, but now they had to be prepared to confront the shadows of their past. "Ready?" Robert asked, sensing the tension. More than ever, she declared, the determination engulfing her heart. But could they withstand the fallout of their decisions? They moved forward, steeling themselves for whatever confrontation lay ahead. Derek's familiar silhouette deepened the shadows around Claire and Robert as they approached, the tension in the air thickening like fog. Her heart raced, each pulse a reminder of past entanglements, of insecurities that clawed at the edges of her newfound ambition. The dreams they had just shared suddenly felt fragile, as though the weight of old expectations could shatter them at any moment. "Hey Claire," Derek called, his voice slicing through the night's stillness. "Fancy seeing you here." There was an insincerity in his tone, the forced friendliness of someone who's accustomed to being in control. Claire felt an instinctual retreat, a familiar urge to revert to the version of herself that had sought to placate his whims rather than assert her own desires. But she squeezed Robert's arm, grounding herself, reminding herself of their shared vision. "Hi Derek," she managed, her voice steady though her insides churned. "What brings you out here? Late night stroll?" His gaze flickered to Robert, scrutinizing, with an edge of disdain. She noted. "Just some brainstorming," Robert interjected, unfazed. We're embarking on a new project. Derek's expression shifted momentarily. Curiosity battled with skepticism. It was the perfect opportunity for Claire to redefine the narrative, to steer this interaction toward empowerment, rather than allow it to spiral into doubt. Yeah, Claire joined in. We're looking at combining creativity and community, trying to build something authentic. Something that truly reflects who we are. A hush fell over the trio, the implications hanging heavily. Claire felt the weight of her words, the vulnerability in laying stakes so publicly, especially before someone who knew her past failures all too well. Derek smirked, skepticism radiating from him like an aura. Interesting idea. But have you considered the risks? His tone was patronizing, a layer of mock concern mocking her budding enthusiasm. Starting something new is no joke. You could end up wasted time and money. Claire's pulse quickened. Here, in front of the man who had paralyzed her aspirations in the past, was a test of both her voice and vision. The fear of failing that she had just named now materialized before her. But she felt a surge of resolve instead of retreat. And we're willing to chart that course, Derek, Claire replied, her voice sharp. That's the purpose of what we're doing. We're not just chasing an ideal. We're embracing the journey, even if it includes stumbling. What's truly at stake is never trying at all. He chuckled, his expression a blend of admiration and derision. Well, look who's found her voice. Yet, Claire sensed a deeper challenge in his eyes. Wasn't he just testing her? This was Derek's method of protecting his territory, of challenging her to revert to that dependent, uncertain version she had been defined by for so long. Are you sure you want to step into such deep waters? He pressed, probing for cracks in her newfound confidence. Absolutely, she asserted, her tone unyielding. Because I understand that trying and failing is far better than stagnating in fear. In that moment, she felt the old weight lift slightly, as though Derek's disapproval was less of an anchor and more of a wave from which she could rise. Robert shifted, throwing Claire a supportive glance. His presence standing firm, an ally in her battle against an antagonist she had allowed to dictate too much of her journey. They had ventured into this new territory together, tethered by their shared dream, and wasn't he going to falter now? Derek's expression hardened, clearly challenged. We'll see if you can keep that determination, he conceded, the smirk fading from his lips. But I wouldn't take it lightly. I might offer you a chance to collaborate if you want real success. Claire felt the allure of his proposition but understood the strings it could carry. The temperature in her chest shifted. Perhaps this was the fork in the road she needed to navigate carefully. Thanks, but we've got our own path to carve out, Claire replied, each word layered with newfound conviction. Each choice mattered now, every negotiation of principles testing her resilience. As Derek turned away, Claire felt the adrenaline recede, replaced with the quiet thrill of having stood her ground. She had redefined the conversation on her terms. Let us dive deeper into our project tomorrow, Robert proposed, his excitement invigorating. Absolutely, Claire confirmed, the determination seeping back into her spirit. They started walking again, the park alive in metaphors of renewal. She took a deep breath, summoning the experience as fuel for growth. Yet lingering on the edges of her mind was Derek's umbrella of doubt. Would she be able to maintain this new perspective in the face of inevitable challenges? With the horizon of possibility expanding before them, Claire couldn't help but wonder how far their resolve would carry them, and what new hurdles awaited just beyond the next moment. Claire awoke the next morning with a sudden clarity that sent tingles of excitement through her bloodstream. The weight of her confrontation with Derek had settled into a quiet determination. She had stood her ground, and now it felt as if the world had shifted ever so slightly in her favor. Shaking off the remnants of sleep, she pulled herself from the bed, setting intentions for the day. In the kitchen, she brewed a strong cup of coffee while reflecting on the conversation from the night before. Each sip invigorated her, transforming disbelief into a vision of possibility. She recalled the moment when she had articulated her desire for authenticity. It was a true declaration, one that felt etched into her identity now. The fear of past disappointments no longer loomed over her. Instead, she felt emboldened by her commitment to explore uncharted territory in both her personal and professional life. After a quick shower, she stood in front of the mirror, her own eyes searching for affirmation. Today matters, she whispered to herself, adjusting her posture. She wasn't there to seek Derek's approval. She was shaping her own narrative. Energized, she dressed in a way that reflected her ambition, striking a balance between professionalism and creative flair. Meeting Robert in their usual cafe felt like a coming home, where ideas and aspirations intertwined over the aroma of freshly baked croissants. Claire took a seat, her heart racing with anticipation for their brainstorming session. Together they had carved out a unique ambition, and it was essential now to build the foundation of their partnership. "Good morning," Claire greeted him, her smile genuine as Robert returned the warmth. "Are you ready for today?" he asked, his enthusiasm palpable. More than ever, she assured him, revealing the resolve she felt deep within. "Let us lay out our plan to approach this project the right way." As they spread out their notes, Claire began to articulate ideas with vibrant clarity. They discussed their vision of integrating art into the community while maintaining authenticity, a stark contrast to the commercialized versions that Derek advocated for. With each technical aspect they fleshed out, she gained more confidence, asking questions and offering insights that surprised even her. "Your ideas are so refreshing," Robert encouraged, jotted down notes with an intensity that mirrored her own. Yet as the morning evolved into afternoon, some remnants of Derek's skepticism echoed in her mind. A flicker of doubt threatened to resurface. What if their ideas weren't enough? She shook her head, reminding herself why she had pushed back against Derek's patronizing nature. They had other challenges ahead, but this moment mattered to stand united in their vision and the integrity of their work. "It feels like we keep hitting walls," Claire admitted, her voice softer now. "What if the market isn't ready?" Robert leaned forward, earnestness in his gaze. "There's always risk, Claire. But the greatest failure would be not trying at all. Remember what you said to Derek?" Her heart swelled. Yes, embracing the journey, she trailed off, allowing the words to settle. "You're right," she replied, emboldened by Robert's unwavering belief. They spent hours meticulously outlining their blueprint, and by the end, Claire felt a surge of elation mixed with exhaustion. Each documented idea was a stepping stone deeper into the waters they dared to tread. As they wrapped up, excitement coursed through her, tinged with the realization that they were still vulnerable. Derek's influence was still faintly echoing in the back of her mind. Could they really stand firm against the challenge he represented? As they left the cafe, the sunlight warmed her face, and Claire felt invigorated. But as Derek's visage swam back into her consciousness, uninvited, it sparked an internal urgency. They needed to act quickly on their vision. Claire could no longer afford to be merely reactive. She had to confront Derek again, on her terms, to deeply understand just what he was truly offering. She turned to Robert, resolve hardening. "We have to prepare for a possible meeting with Derek. It's time to find out what his offer really means." His eyebrows rose, understanding dawning. "You think he is serious?" "I think he knows we're making waves, and I'm not going to let him distract us." Determination bubbled within her as they navigated the street, propelled by the urgency of their mission. With every step forward, Claire fueled the flame of possibility, even as unexpected challenges lurked just out of sight. What awaited them beyond Derek's looming uncertainties could redefine everything, and Claire could feel the moment of truth approaching, one that could pivot the very trajectory of their ambitions. In the days that followed, Claire's resolve solidified into a daily practice. She immersed herself in research, gathering insights on art trends and community initiatives that resonated with their vision. The weight of her past doubts began to lift, replaced by a laser focus on their mission. Each morning, she stood before her mirror, repeating affirmations that now felt second nature. "I am capable. I am authentic." As Claire delved deeper into the intricacies of project management, she began to recognize hidden skills within herself. Ideas flowed, and her ability to synthesize complex information into clear strategies became apparent. What once felt daunting now felt empowering, awakening a sense of leadership she'd never fully acknowledged. Every time she crafted a presentation for Robert, she found herself not just organizing thoughts but infusing them with passion and purpose. "Your presentation skills have improved tremendously," Robert commented one brisk afternoon as they prepared for a pivotal meeting. "I never knew you had this in you." "Neither did I," Claire responded, a soft smile tugging at her lips. It was true. She had spent years overshadowed by the complacency of her previous job, But now the realization of her capabilities was exhilarating. The thrill of being seen, of making her ideas count, was intoxicating. However, underlying this newfound confidence was the gnawing anxiety of the impending meeting with Derek. As uncertainty loomed, Claire found herself oscillating between ambition and apprehension. She wondered, was she truly ready to confront someone who had once held so much power over her? What if her aspirations fell flat against Derek's expectations? The night before the meeting, Claire sat in her small living room, clothes strewn across the floor as she debated what to wear. She chose an elegant yet assertive ensemble, one that signaled her growth and authority. It felt symbolic in armor for the challenges that lay ahead. Tomorrow's just another opportunity, she whispered to herself, as if she could convince the universe to align in her favor. The thought stuck with her, a mantra she clung to as sleep began to sweep her away. Morning arrived with a tinge of crispness in the air, and an electric charge that caught her breath. Claire arrived early at the sleek office space where she would meet Derek. As she stepped through the glass doors, her heart thrummed with anticipation. She was determined to make a statement, to articulate her vision with unwavering conviction, and to reclaim the narrative. The conference room was equipped with cutting-edge technology, reflecting the sterile professionalism that Derek represented. Yet Claire felt a fire inside that could not be extinguished by sterile walls or corporate decor. When Derek entered, a wave of mixed emotions washed over her. Caution bordered on dread, but invigorating adrenaline countered it. "Claire, glad you could make it," Derek greeted, his tone smooth yet laced with condescension. "Thank you for having me," Claire replied, summoning every ounce of composure. As she spoke, Claire felt a distinct shift in herself. This wasn't about defending her choices or adopting a passive role anymore. It was about standing firm in her vision. Derek's gaze never wavered as they discussed potential collaborations. But Claire caught subtle expressions of skepticism crossing his face, and it spurred her on. The longer the conversation stretched, the more she leaned into her arguments, articulating points that highlighted the value of authenticity and innovation over market conformity. Soon, Claire found her voice infinitely clearer, fortified by her dedication and backed by Robert's unwavering support. "But what you don't understand, Derek, is that true art isn't bound by trends. It transcends expectations. We're not here to just fill a quota. We want to inspire change." For the first time she noticed Derek shift uncomfortably. "Are you suggesting I don't understand the market?" he challenged, his voice rising. "It's not about your understanding. It's about the vision we want to shape," she countered, feeling the energy in the room crackle. The stakes had never felt higher, and as tension filled the space, Claire held her ground. "Perhaps this is where we part ways," Derek shot back, his tone dipped in frustration. But it was clear to her now the conversation wasn't about winning or losing. It was about asserting her own path, no matter the result. As the meeting concluded with a strained silence, Claire stepped out, the adrenaline still surging through her body. The fear that had been her constant companion was fading. She had confronted Derek, stood firm, and for the first time, truly believed in her worth, but the moment of reflection dissipated quickly. The reality of their project loomed larger than any personal victory. What would Derek's dismissal mean for their future? Did this mark the beginning of a crucial pivot, or was it merely the prelude to deeper challenges? Claire's heart raced at the thought, leaning into the uncertainty. She realized her journey had only just begun, and the real fight for their vision was far from over. As she reconnected with Robert, the spark of possibility ignited once more. "Did I really just say all that?" Claire breathed, a mixture of disbelief and exhilaration painting her face. "Absolutely. But we need to discuss our next steps." With every word, she sensed that the challenges ahead might unravel even deeper truths about her character, and she was ready to face them, come what may. Claire's exhilaration after the meeting was palpable, but it was soon overshadowed by an urgent need for direction. What would she say to Robert when they regrouped? The idea of returning to the comfort of complacency haunted her, especially now that she'd tasted the sweet victory of asserting herself. She paced her modest kitchen, thoughts swirling like autumn leaves caught in a gust. "Okay, Claire. Focus," she murmured, gripping the countertop as if it could anchor her swirling thoughts. Decisions needed to be made, and they had to be formidable. When Robert finally arrived, there was no time for idle chit-chat. The room crackled with intensity as they faced each other. Claire could sense his anticipation. He understood the stakes as well as she did. "What comes next?" he asked straightforwardly, his eyes locking onto hers, urging her to articulate the next steps. "I need to reframe our approach," she declared. A surge of confidence washing over her. "Derek might not see our vision, but the world outside that conference room is ready for it. We need to find like-minded partners, potential collaborators who also believe in authenticity." Robert nodded in agreement, his brow furrowing slightly. "That's a bold move. Are you sure you're up for it? It's not just about convincing people. It's about ensuring they resonate with your vision." Every part of her wanted to answer with unwavering certainty, but instead, Claire found herself hesitating. The recollection of Derek's condescension momentarily dimmed her resolve. What if others dismissed her too? "I know there will be obstacles, but we can't allow fear of rejection to stifle our vision. This is bigger than me. It's about transforming how art is perceived." "Then we need a strategy," Robert replied, folding his arms. "We can create a presentation that highlights not only our vision, but the potential partnerships we could forge. Let us make it irresistible." Claire could almost feel the electricity of possibility as they dove into discussions about potential collaborators. They mapped out a list of artists, entrepreneurs, and organizations that stood out for their innovative approaches. Each name ignited another spark of excitement within her. As their brainstorming session grew more intense, Claire tucked away the lingering doubts about her personal worthiness. The harsh critique from Derek had begun to fade, replaced increasingly by a strong validation that this was, in fact, her journey. The newfound clarity in her thoughts empowered her to confront everything that lay ahead. Just as they reached a consensus on their top 5 collaboration targets, the phone buzzed on the table, an email notification from Derek. Claire's heart raced. The email felt like a punctuation to her resolve. She had been prepared to confront him, yet seeing his name caused a flicker of anxiety to return. She knew she had left the meeting with an impression, but would he clarify or counter their assertions? Holding her breath, she opened the email. "Claire, I appreciate your passion. However, our approach diverges significantly," it read. "While I respect your commitment, I believe there are several ways to engage with the market that may be more viable. Assuredly, I'm more than open to discussing this." A swell of frustration bubbled inside her. Did he think he could undermine her determination with pretentious jargon? "It's not the end of my journey," she muttered, reminding herself of the progress she had made. "Everything okay?" Robert asked, noticing Claire's shift in demeanor. "Yes, we'll discuss this. But there's gotta be a way to illustrate our vision that's far more compelling." The idea emerged suddenly, seemingly out of the ether. What if they invited these potential partners to an informal gathering? A space where ideas flowed freely, without the strictures of formal presentations, a dialogue instead of a monologue. "We can create an engaging environment for collaboration, not just pitching." "Exactly," Robert replied, his eyes lighting up. "We can pull in local artists, create interactive experiences where our vision comes to life. It's about weaving stories, not just numbers on a slide." A plan formed, the very fabric of Claire's dream materializing before her. They meticulously crafted every detail, every aspect designed to captivate and inspire. Yet beneath that growing excitement curled a whisper of dread. Would Derek ignore her invitation or worse, sabotage her effort to gather allies? As she shared the outline with Robert, Claire confronted a personal dilemma swirling in her mind. She realized that she had to be prepared for rejection, both from Derek and potentially from those she aimed to impress. "This is a risk, Robert," she finally admitted, the weight of honesty punctuating her words. "But it's one I'm willing to take." "Then let us make it unforgettable," Robert replied, his determination heating the air between them. Claire inhaled deeply, tasting the mixture of fear and exhilaration. The path to proving herself was fraught with uncertainty, but the flicker of her ambition now blazed fiercely. This was her moment to gather the right voices around her, to weave a narrative that could resonate beyond the confines of the traditional marketplace. There was no turning back now. But as they delved deeper into planning, an unexpected email from an interested organization came through, initiating a conversation that could change everything. Would it validate Claire's vision? Or could another disappointment be waiting on the horizon? As the afternoon sun dipped below the skyline, casting long shadows through her kitchen. Claire's heart raced with anticipation. The unexpected email was a glimmer of hope, a tantalizing opportunity. She held her breath as she read the message again, absorbing every word. The organization expressed interest in collaboration, an opening she'd been yearning for, yet fraught with implications. Could this be the validation she needed? Who is it from? Robert asked, leaning forward, his eyes alight with curiosity. It's the local arts incubator. They want to set up a meeting to discuss our ideas, Claire replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Now that's promising, Robert exclaimed, a grin breaking out on his face. This could give us the momentum we need. But beneath her excitement lay unease. The fear of inadequacy whispered at the edges of her consciousness. Could she articulate her vision effectively? Would they see the value in her concepts? The lingering specter of Derek's dismissal darkened her thoughts momentarily. Claire, Robert's voice pierced through her internal dialogue. If this is a big opportunity, we have to prepare. What do you want to convey? What do you hope to achieve? The question hung in the air, prompting Claire to reflect. I want them to understand that art isn't just a product. It's a narrative, an experience that can provoke thought and inspire connection. We must show them how our approach differs. Then let us start crafting a compelling narrative. We need to outline how our method differs and the impact it could have. This meeting isn't just about selling a vision. It's about demonstrating the need for change. Claire took a deep breath, feeling resolve bubble up inside her. It was time to step fully into her role as a leader. Let us make a timeline for our ideas. We can integrate elements from the brainstorming session and add those interactive experiences. I love it. And let us prepare some graphics to illustrate our concepts visually. People often connect more deeply with stories through imagery. Robert suggested as they worked tirelessly, consolidating thoughts into a presentation. Claire felt a sense of purpose solidifying within her. Each bullet point and image was not merely an idea but a representation of her growth and commitment to breaking away from her past limitations. However, in the depths of her determination sat an underlying anxiety, a fear of vulnerability. Art was personal, and opening up her vision meant exposing herself to critique. What if they found fault in her ideas? What if they found no merit in her approach? During a break, Claire stepped outside for air, letting the crisp evening breeze clear her mind. She looked up, allowing the vastness of the sky to ease her worries. Standing there, she reminded herself that every successful innovator faced skepticism. This was part of the process. But as she walked back in, there was a layer of reality she had yet to confront. Derek's potential presence in discussions with the incubator. How would he react if he found out about her collaboration? Would he undermine her credibility? The thought sent a chill through her, interrupting the sense of empowerment she'd been building. Claire, you okay? Robert's voice interrupted her spiraling thoughts. I'm just thinking about Derek's involvement, she admitted, her voice wavering slightly. Let him come, Claire. This is your moment to shine. You've built this idea, Robert said firmly. Derek's skepticism doesn't define your worth. You possess the vision and determination that he failed to recognize. The fire ignited again. She didn't need validation from someone who thrived on doubt. What mattered was surrounding herself with those who believed in her mission. With renewed vigor, Claire dove back into work. They meticulously rehearsed their pitch, her confidence surging every time she spoke about their shared vision, making the narrative come alive in vibrant colors. Yet, in the quiet moments of preparation, that same whisper of dread returned. What if the meeting went horribly wrong? What if everything they had worked for crumbled under scrutiny? Her thoughts spiraled until she had to actively breathe through the anxiety. Finally, as night approached, Claire's phone buzzed. A reminder. The meeting was tomorrow. She had no choice but to confront her fears head-on. For Claire, this was no longer just about art or business. It was her journey, ripe with her experiences, fears, and most importantly, her convictions. She had transformed from the woman who clung to silent reverence within the shadows of Derek's dominance to one ready to present a bold manifesto of creativity. The path ahead remained unpredictable, but one thing felt certain: she was done allowing fear of rejection run her narrative. As she reached for her notes and began to envision the meeting's outcomes, a message from Robert pinged on her phone, shaking her focus. Remember, The most transformative ideas often face the most significant resistance. You got this. But what if that resistance was closer than she thought? As Claire closed her eyes, envisioning the room filled with critics, doubt crept back in. Dark and clawing change was coming. Was she truly prepared to embrace it? The day of the meeting dawned, bright and full of possibilities. Claire felt the anticipation humming in the air as she stood before her mirror, her reflection revealing a woman transformed. No longer a waitress burdened by obligation, she was now a partner ignited by ambition and creativity. The nerves, once a crippling weight, now danced as vibrant butterflies within her, signaling her readiness to step fully into this pivotal moment. When Claire entered the conference room, the air felt charged with potential. The local arts incubator representatives were prompt and professional, mirroring the sleek environment Derek had created. Today there would be no echoes of the past, no intimidation, just an opportunity for genuine collaboration. Robert was by her side, radiating confidence and supporting her every step. As the presentation commenced, Claire navigated through her carefully crafted narrative, articulating her vision with clarity and conviction. She emphasized the power of storytelling in art and positioned their project as a transformative beacon for creativity, the very principles that resonated with her core beliefs. Each slide displayed not just content but vibrant visuals that encapsulated their passion, cutting through the sterile atmosphere like a burst of sunlight. The representatives listened intently. Their eyes reflected engagement, nodding as Claire opened the floor for discussion, inviting dialogue instead of presenting a monologue. When they began to respond, Claire felt herself glowing with a quiet thrill. She had projected her ideas not just as a dreamer, but as a credible leader demanding respect. Your approach feels fresh and impactful, one representative remarked. What do you envision as a starting point? A flow of ideas surged through her. This was a space for collaboration, an environment built on shared ambition. We could host a community workshop, Claire suggested, excitement bubbling in her voice. A place where artists and innovators can unite to create, drawing inspiration from one another, and ultimately shaping an exhibition that embodies our community's creativity. The spark of interest ignited in their eyes was infectious, and Claire found herself connecting deeper with her vision. Their probing questions turned into constructive conversations, their initial skepticism transforming into meaningful engagement. As the meeting progressed, Claire could feel the shifting tides of validation. This was what she had been searching for, the confirmation that her voice mattered in shaping the narrative of art in her community. Minutes turned into hours as they fleshed out concepts, nurturing a collaborative spirit that felt almost electric. And as the meeting concluded with plans for a follow-up, Claire felt an exhilarating wave of accomplishment wash over her. They had gone beyond merely pitching. They had planted the seeds of a partnership fueled by a shared mission. Stepping out of the meeting room, Claire was enveloped by a cascade of emotions: elation, relief, and the heady rush of confidence. Robert turned to her, his grin radiating pride. You were incredible. This partnership is an opportunity for each of us to thrive together. In that moment, Claire felt the definitive shift within herself. She was no longer fighting shadowy battles with her past. She had emerged into a reality steeped in brightness and possibility. This sense of achievement was not merely about the potential for success, but represented an inherent transformation in how she perceived herself. She had reclaimed her narrative. Returning home, Claire sat at her kitchen table, absorbing the gravity of the day. The doubts cascading from previous years felt impossibly distant. She had molded her story into one of strength, reiterated through her actions and choices. With each decision, she proved not only to herself but to the world that she could achieve more than just survival. She was building, creating, thriving. As dusk enveloped her home in a soft glow, she felt a sense of triumph swell within her. She had conquered her fears, bravely shared her vision, and began cultivating authentic relationships centered on support rather than judgment. Claire raised her glass of water in a toast to the evening. Here's to new beginnings, she murmured, her voice steady with purpose. With newfound confidence and a clear direction, Claire stood on the cusp of realizing not just her ambitions but the essence of who she had always aspired to be. She felt recognized, competent, and most importantly fulfilled. The journey of transformation had not just culminated, it had ignited. Now, after all this, remember, You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss future exclusive emotional stories that could inspire your own transformation. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how personal growth can truly change one's life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really helps. Comment your thoughts, reactions, or theories because your engagement makes a difference. This is the moment to show your support.